Hi, everybody. This is Barbara Marison from JoanneSuccess.com, and I have with me today Lisa Thomas, and she's got a really fascinating story about what she does. And I want to welcome you, Lisa, for being here. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here, Barbara.
I'm so excited having you. And I think we were talking a little bit about what you do, and this emotional DNA is fascinating because everybody we kind of get stuck and we don't know what are we doing wrong and why is whatever we're doing not happening. And you have a fabulous explanation about all of that stuff, and that's your specialty. So take it away, Lisa.
All right, let's start. I work within the epigenetics, Barbara, and I'll explain how that works. We each have our own DNA code, our own helix. That's what makes us 5 feet tall or 6 feet 5. It what gives us our brown eyes, blue eyes, or green eyes. We cannot change the DNA code. But how the DNA expresses itself is within the epigenetics.
What is that?
I'm sorry, what?
What is that? I don't know what that is.
Epigenetics is how our DNA expresses itself, and it's based on the life experience of our ancestors. All right. And so we inherit a lot of wonderful qualities from our ancestors. We inherit our gifts. We inherit our talents. We also inherit their trauma energy. We inherit their fears. And it shows up in our day-to-day life. So for example, a really easy example is for someone who has that innate, you're born with that fear of spiders since you were 3 years old, and your family can tell you stories since you were a little child, right? Where you see a spider and you absolutely panic. Well, that's an inherited pattern. And it could be, it's where you have a fear of something, but you've never encountered it. Right? Where you could have a great-great-grandfather, on the other hand, who was cutting wood and got bit by a poisonous spider and almost died. So you see how the fear of that gets passed down in the cells of our body, and it expresses itself through our DNA.
Wow, that is really interesting because we don't think of things like that.
We don't.
So because a great-great-grandfather who might have been bitten by the spider didn't work on any of this stuff. He didn't understand,
Well, and we don't, that's right. And we don't pass it down on purpose. There's no fault here. Like as a parent, you don't think, okay, I'm going to choose not to pass this down. This all lies within the energy body of our physical body, as well as within the subconscious. So it's nothing done. There's no blame here. But also it gives us insight as to why sometimes we struggle in things, like we might procrastinate a lot. That's an inherited pattern. We might have a fear of failure, so we don't take action. And so we get in these cycles of 2 steps forward, 3 steps back. We can have a lot of money blocks come from lineage. And it doesn't really matter how much money ancestors had. That's really not even the point of it. It's about how they dealt with it, how they experienced it, and that gets handed down.
That's actually in the DNA. It's not just the way that they thought or emotionally how they dealt with money.
It's both. So we can't attribute everything to our DNA because we have learned experiences in our life. By the time we are 7 years old, we've created our own, I call it our own energy blueprint. And what that means is it's based on how we view ourselves as we experience the world at large. So it's how we feel and how we interact with our parents, with our siblings, how that second, third child, if you're the oldest, impacted you, no matter where you are in the bloodline, right? It's about how teachers treated you, how your friends, you're not getting invited to that birthday party, and resentment, or not resentment, but judgment and the fear of not being liked. Those things get trapped and we determine who we are. What's interesting though, Barbara, is it's not true. It's not true.
So is that part of what's the DNA?
No, it has nothing to do with the DNA. Those are our life experiences. Now, the only way it might have to do with DNA is if we have an innate insecurity anyway. We're just born shy, right? Then when those things happen, it activates it. right? We can have something lay dormant in our epigenetics for a long time before it gets activated. And it's like out of nowhere, we might, especially let's take COVID, for example. None of us have lived through a pandemic. And yet, look at the run on toilet paper that we had.
Mm-hmm.
And there was no reason for it.
Right.
There really wasn't.
Right.
But what I feel got activated is that scarcity with the pandemic that did come from our lineage. And so we had to hurry and go into survival mode because we needed to live. Mm-hmm. Our ancestors were not looking for toilet paper. That's not how it showed up for them. But the scarcity of something and the fear of bad things happening did.
So like the fear that happens, like because a lot of our who we are came from other countries way back
Mm-hmm.
when.
That's
and
right.
There was a lot of scarcity, and there was a lot of like, I know my great grandmother came over from Poland when she was 16 years old by herself.
Yeah.
And, although I knew her for a short amount of time, but she must have been feeling scared and what am I going to do and all of that. And
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people probably felt that too, getting older. And I guess that was in her DNA, her DNA and my DNA, but also in life experience.
Absolutely. And then what will happen is the subconscious will trap experiences in our life as a way of trying to keep us safe. But the subconscious really doesn't know the truth from the lie until you train it. And it's not about saying, okay, that's a negative thought. It doesn't work that way. So you could have been 14 years old. So I'll give you an example of a client recently. This is a recent example. A client of mine was in the family car, and a teacher from school was sitting in the back seat with her as they were driving as a family to go to an event. And the teacher engaged with her and said, "What do you like to do when you're not at school?" And she said, "I like to sing." And he said, "Please sing me something. I love to sing too." So he's engaging her in a very friendly conversation. And so she started to sing a very familiar childhood song. Her father reaches back he's driving from the back seat of the car, slaps her on the knee and tells her to stop, just like that, right? And the teacher coming to her rescue said, "She has a lovely voice. Please let her continue." And the father says, "She's tone deaf. She knows it, and she never sings on key. We'll hear no more music."
That's so
These
sad.
things happen. This is real life experience, right?
Yeah.
And did she ever sing again? No, not even in the shower.
Really? Wow.
Really.
Really?
So those things show up as like, and so now how it impacts her now as an adult is she's really doesn't believe in herself. She doesn't know who she is. She thought she was a good singer. Nobody had ever told her she was tone deaf. Her father made that up. Okay. And so the other thing that's happened is because she doesn't think she's ever good enough or ever worthy of anything, she compares herself to everyone else. And so when we get trapped in that comparison cycle, everybody appears to have something we don't. And whatever their life is has to be better than ours.
Mm-hmm. And
It's hard.
how do you get out of that comparison cycle? Because I know we all do. I certainly do. And it's like, is it something that, can we get out of it? Or is it just something that we'll just
Well, you can work with an energy worker that's good at clearing those types of things. I think all energy work is good. Something that I like to do, I'll give you a couple of ideas, okay? That what this is, I call these awareness exercises with intention. Will it clear DNA? No, it does not, okay? But when we become aware of things that we've forgotten about, it allows us the opportunity to change the story, okay? So here's something that your audience can do. You need to spend 10 to 20 minutes in quiet time, no matter how busy you are, okay? And you need to ask yourself, the question is, as you think back in childhood, it's usually childhood somewhere by the time you're 20, okay? What happened in my life that's impacting me in a negative way now? Okay? It'll come to your mind, okay? Because we all can remember these things, right? And then on a separate piece of paper, this is where the intention part comes. You're going to write out the story, okay? That's the first part. The second part is then you're going to rewrite it. Okay, now you can do this either in words. Actually, let me go back. I'm going to get confused. You're going to be confused. Write the story out and then just put it at the bottom. Okay, put, I give love and gratitude that this happened because it has made me wise now and I'm letting it go. Now, there's some practices where you burn it. I would not suggest burning this, okay? Because the subconscious needs something else and it just like evaporating. It has a hard time with, that's like magical. The brain doesn't get along on with magical, okay? So it doesn't believe that. So what I want you to do is then wad it up and walk out to the garbage can and throw it away. You see, that what you're doing is like a brain dump. You're throwing it away because it's no longer your truth.
That's interesting. I was just thinking about like with the DNA or the history. I know like a lot of people say they're doing the same thing that their parents did, but they know it, but they can't seem to stop.
And that's learned behavior.
That's learned behavior.
So that's where the money stories come in. Like I remember asking for a new dress for something. I was young. It was like a performance. And my dad said, Lisa, you get an Easter dress and you get a Christmas dress. You're good. And right? Or we can hear money. How many of us, especially our generation, money isn't grown on trees?
Right.
Who do you think you are? Money isn't grown on trees. So those are learned behaviors. Or we hear our parents arguing over money.
If we can't remember what our parents are like, because I mean, kids sort of just hear what's going on in the background, but we know that we've got our own money issues, but we can't really remember anything of actually what happened. How do we reconcile with it? How do we turn that around with money?
Well, I have a set of money audios, okay, because really this is where you need somebody else. If we could do it, I like to think of it this way. It's a tender mercy of the universe, because if we could all do something ourselves, we would not need each other. And right now in the world, we're all collectively experiencing a lot of stuff together, but we also have to experience it in isolation. Right? And so really what's happening is we are each being called to get to unclutter, so to speak, let go of what isn't working for us, and then collaborate at large to make the world a better place.
Do you think a lot of people are uncluttering what's not working for them?
I do.
Like even here in the States with the political environment and
absolutely. They have to. Yeah. Because we can't put our head in the sand anymore, Barbara. We're not ostriches, and it isn't going to go by us, because internally we really have to create new paradigms. And what we're being called to is we have to let go of old regimes. And that doesn't have anything to do what political party it is. It doesn't matter what political party gets elected right now. We have to let go of old paradigms and come together. You know, instead of this one being right or this one being right, we have to meet in the middle somewhere.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's very positive to think about what's going on right now. Because
absolutely.
Very negative. So it's a great way to see things. So what's going between the DNA and our learned behavior and all that stuff, we can change what's going on in their lives.
It can be changed. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. They're called, within the epigenetics, it's called informational tags. These informational tags can be released at any time in your life. When it's released from one person in the bloodline, it releases from everyone in the bloodline. Yeah.
So like not only our ancestors, but the people coming after us?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean,
stop the pattern, including if we have children. I mean, not everybody has children, but if you do have children, let me speak to that a little bit. Not every child inherits the same thing you have. And oftentimes within children, if they did, it will show up differently. So let's take addiction, for example. Someone might inherit the addiction to alcohol, while addiction also for the other child might show up in extreme perfectionism. Right? And they're addicted to that perfectionism, to never being wrong. And so the same thing can come down, but it might show up a little bit differently.
So I guess like each child they might inherit the same thing, but will show up differently.
Yeah,
them.
or they might not have the same thing. Either way.
Mm-hmm.
There isn't a rhyme or reason to how it gets passed down per se. So there was a study years ago by Emory University, and what they did is they took mice and they would blow in a cherry blossom smell, only male mice. This is male mice. And they blew in the cherry blossom smell. At the same time, they put a soft electrical current on their feet, just for a split second. All right. And they did this, I think, like 7 times, quit doing it. Okay. And then when they blow the cherry blossom in there, it created anxiety for them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. They then mated them with female mice, and the children were terrified of the smell of cherry blossom.
Wow.
And it kept going. I think they quit testing, I think, after 7 generations.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
When you about having children, not having, if you don't have children, does it still get cleared out? If you're clearing it out for yourself, it clears out in both directions. But what if you don't have children? So
Well, then it wouldn't be, you wouldn't have any posterity to clear it out for, right? It doesn't matter. But if you're young and you might have children, it would stop that pattern from showing up in your children.
And what about, like with me, I don't have children, but I have nieces. Would they be affected by my feeling?
Yes, they would be if they inherited it. Absolutely. It goes sideways and forward and backwards.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yes, I think about that sometimes for myself since I don't have children. And I guess backwards. Well, it's really, really interesting because I know a lot of people. In fact, I was just watching something on TV, and the guy was saying, "I'm doing the same thing my father did, and he knows it, but he didn't want to do it."
Yeah.
And it's almost like he couldn't stop it.
That's exactly. And that's sometimes I'll say it's not our fault, right? Because we inherit things we are not consciously aware of. And so it impacts how we show up in our life. And even though we have a great intention, we just can't carry it through.
And is it just really being aware? And if you're aware of it?
I think that being aware helps. But to really release the vibration of these inherited patterns, you need somebody or a way to do it. Yeah. And actually, and we can talk about this, I am coming out with a new program like within 2 weeks that teaches people how to release this from themselves. It's called epigenetic healing.
And can you give us a little example of what that is?
Well, I do that in the class. I teach a 4-hour class. It's all been pre-recorded, and it has the downloads of the material. And I teach you how to muscle test. I teach you how to work with your subconscious. I teach you about inherited patterns. I teach you a basic formula to be able to discover and release from yourself.
Is it different? I'm a big tapper. Is it different than tapping?
It's very different than tapping. Tapping does not change DNA. Tapping does change life experiences in our life.
So it's not hopeless, even though we have these things stuck in our DNA. It's not hopeless.
No, it's not hopeless. I have a whole career with it. It's not hopeless. No, it changes people's lives every day. It's not hopeless. In fact, I love it so much. I also certify people in the method because there's only one Lisa, and I really want more people to get help.
Is it hard to get certified?
It's not hard. It's not hard at all. It is a 2-step process. You're with me for a year, but within 5 months, you can be making money. And then I teach you another level of it, and you really feel confident. You get a lot of time with me. But that's different, Barbara. That's different than this heal yourself, because not everybody wants to have a business with healing. Not everybody wants to work with other people, but they might want to help themselves and family members. And so that's what I created the lower level for. Not lower level, it's for the initial one-on-one person.
No, that's interesting because a lot of people don't want to do a business, or else they're doing something else. And they don't want to do this as a business.
Right.
They can do it.
Right.
Well, getting into a little bit of how you started this, because I've never heard of this before. And it really sounds very interesting with this whole DNA emotional pattern. So can you explain a little bit how you started and why you got interested in this? And how you
It
got
came,
interested in it?
it came about, so here we go. It came about pretty naturally. And so I'm a big advocate and I speak a lot in public about listening to those gut feelings and taking action when you don't want to, because we create stories as to why we can't do something. Okay. And so when I was born, Barbara, there's what's called clair gifts. It's a term, clairsentient, clairvoyant, right? There's clair gifts. And as I was born with them, well, I didn't have anybody to teach me what that was, except that I saw dead people and I could hear them. And I could look at people when I was little and know if they were healthy or not. Okay, now it came through my lineage, it came through on my father's side, but nobody knew that. Okay, or they didn't tell me anyway. And my mother used to tell me, Lisa, don't, if we were at church, don't talk about stuff, right? And it's not, in all fairness to my mother, she just wanted to protect me from not getting teased. She just wanted to keep me safe from not being ridiculed, right? And so I didn't grow up knowing what to do, except that I lived in a lot of fear because of it. Because if you can't talk about it innately on a subconscious level, then there's something wrong with you. So as I got older, I had I started to have children. I experienced postpartum depression. Now I believe that when we are not who we are, meaning when we try and be somebody else to fit in, innately, you are going to suffer on some level. And I'm trying to really fast forward this. I was in a very bad ATV accident when I was 40, and I almost died. And the night before this accident, I'm really adventurous and I like to do things and I like to win. And I was racing my husband on a sand dune. And it's not a sand dune, you go up or down. So I didn't get very far up when this ATV came back on top of me. Went up through my chin, up through my face. It was a big deal. They told me I was paralyzed. It was a big deal. But the night before, my mother came to me in a dream. And she said, Lisa, this is a turning point in your life. And I said, Mother, why are you wearing red lipstick? It looks awful. And she said, because you will never forget this dream. I am with you and it's going to be okay. Well, I didn't know what that meant until the next day, right? What happened then is I had lived for years on Diet Coke because, see, I was depressed and I needed that energy boost, right? When this accident happened, I said to God, I'm going to quit drinking this stuff. It was 3 super big gulps a day from 7-Eleven. And I went into a deep cycle of it got worse for me. All right. I then started looking into holistic ways to heal myself. One thing led to another. And I realized that I was really good at all these little holistic things that I was learning. And so I started helping my friends. I started helping and I started feeling better and I started doing better. And one thing led to another where as I was clearing in inherited patterns, ancestors were coming to sessions and telling me that it was releasing from people. It was releasing from everybody. And then one thing again led to another. Now, I had to push through a lot of uncomfortability to get there. I make it sound like it was easy. It wasn't easy at all. When I told my husband that I was going to start charging people, he said, no way. He said, I don't want healer hung from our house. And I don't agree with that. And I'm like, look, babe, I love you. And I can't turn around now. It's like my life is different and I have to do this. So I want to do it together. Now it makes it sound like I was going to leave him. I never had the intention of, but in a relationship, you can live 2 separate lives in a relationship and that's not fun. And I didn't want to live 2 separate lives. So I said, I'd really like you to come with me on this journey. And he said, I don't know if I can. So what happened, Barbara, is he challenged me the whole way.
Mm.
But I'll tell you what, I can talk to any scientist about what I do. It made me really good at explaining who I am because I had to explain it to my husband. You with me? So
Mhm.
our challenges become our friend. And
Mm.
when we can, but if I would have taken that and said, okay, I won't do it. You're right. And if I would have gone into my old pattern of second guessing myself, then I wouldn't be here.
Mm. Mm.
And
Well,
one thing led to another. And I love what I do.
that's very interesting because a lot of people do stop right away, and your husband challenged you would have stopped, and that would have been it.
That would have been it.
And then
Mm-hmm.
because a lot of people, most people do that. I think most people do that. In
Mm-hmm.
fact, I myself had a story. I was trying to do something and it wasn't working. And then I said to myself, don't quit so easily. And I kept on doing it. And
Mm-hmm.
it hasn't turned out the way I wanted to yet, but maybe it will. But at least I went through with it and I'm proud of myself for doing it. And,
Right.
but a lot of people saying, too
I know.
difficult, I'm not going to do it. They stop right away. Well, this has been really fascinating, Lisa. I think like totally different from anyone that I've ever heard anything about any of this.
Aw, thank
I know
you.
you've given us a free gift, and I really appreciate that. And can you explain a little bit about it?
The free gift is a money clearing because a lot of people get tripped up in scarcity. And so it's a full hour audio, and you need to have it plugged into both ears.
Mm-hmm.
You do not have to sit for an hour. That's the thing. You just need to do the beginning visualization with me because what I'm doing in the visualization is I'm connecting the subconscious mind with your conscious brain. Your body does all the, Lisa's not healing you. Your body does the healing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then what it will do is it will release these energy vibrations that have been inherited and trapped in your life, and it will release them. So you can listen to this more than once. I would wait 2 days between listening. You'll notice that you feel differently after you listen to it. You can even put them into the ears and go to sleep if you want.
Oh, good. Mm-hmm.
You don't have to be awake. I call it brain hacking. And I will go for a walk or I'll do things that I'm naturally going to do. Download it. And then if you're on an airplane, when we can, right, then make use of that time. Make use of the time when you're reading. Make use of time and let your body release for you.
Very, very interesting. Well, thank you so much for being here and doing this. And everybody, I'm sure you got so much out of this that we were talking about. I really appreciate it. So thank you for being here, and thank you, Lisa, for being here.